So You Can Ask, it was actually developed by some of our own students as a software engineering project a few years ago. So they developed it as users who knew what they wanted. And so the whole idea of it is that in the classroom, in a lecture theatre, typically with 50, 100, few hundred students, as long as they're connected to the wireless, then they can give feedback to the lecturer through the You Can Ask system. Now, there are two modes that it can be used. One is that the one that it was sort of named after, that they originally envisaged, is students could just type in a question anytime and it would come up on the lecturer's screen, and so they could find out anonymously from students what they were wondering about while the lecture was proceeding. But the aspect of it I found most useful is that as a lecturer I can put up questions, mainly multi-choice, but there's also free text questions, and ask them to feed back. Now, that happens instantly, so you can actually have a graph up on the screen where they actually see every time they click on a button, they see the graph go up on the screen for their particular vote or whatever. Sometimes I don't show that because it may be so a common use is to find out where they're at, and like I might ask a question that could have actually been a simple exam question or something, and if everyone gets it right, then I can say, okay, I think you get that concept, I'll move on, and if they get it wrong, then I can revise it more carefully and I can test their understanding and or misunderstanding as it happens. So that works really well because it's anonymous and it's also instant. So if I put up a question on a particular topic, then I put it up on the screen after they've voted on it or put in their decision, and they might see that 80% of the class got it exactly right, and in which case I can say, look, for the other 20%, make sure you ask about this in the tutorial or make sure you read up on it. If it's the other way around, where 80% of the class misunderstood it or don't understand it, I'll say, look, I'll go over that. And that 20% who are sitting there thinking, oh, everyone knows about the subject, are now sitting there thinking, oh, okay, I'm in the top 20% and 80% of them need help on it. So maybe it is valuable for the lecturer to go over it. So it gives the students a sense of where each other are at. And another way of using it is that you can put up a question and maybe one that they don't really know the answer to, or where the answer is probably different to what you might expect, and you get them to vote on it. And then you get them to talk in pairs or in a group where they are and just say, if your answer is different to someone else's, then you convince them that your answer is right. And then we have another vote. And generally the trend is that they've now convinced each other more towards the correct answer, and seeing what's wrong with their reasoning or something like that. I always start off very gently by asking them a benign question like, what kind of device are you using? Everyone wants to put in a vote for their kind of smartphone, or it could be a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop that they're actually using to get into the system. And then, or even like, what's your favourite colour, or who's going to win the rugby game on Saturday night, or something like that, and have a few humorous things like I don't care as an answer and things like that. But that just helps them to exercise the system. But then sometimes I'll ask a question like, how are you finding this such and such topic? And it could be, I totally get it, can we move on? Down to, I am totally confused, I don't even know where to start with it, and so on. And because it's anonymous, people can be pretty honest about where they're at. I mean, they're not going to say, I'm confused, go over it again, if they really don't want to hear it again, and so on. But it is a chance, again, for the rest of the class to see, oh, okay, there is a group in here who still don't get it, or what the distribution is. So that's quite a useful mode of using it. But then what I've found is that sometimes it still takes like a minute. Like I would only ask maybe 3 or 4 You Can Ask questions in an entire lecture, because it does hold things up a wee bit while everyone gets out their phone and logs in and things like that. It's just a minute or two, but that's quite valuable time. So sometimes I'll just say, oh, who understands this? And just do a show of hands. And what's happened is they've built up trust. They've been voting on these things. They've been saying, I don't understand it. And after they've said that a few times electronically and anonymously, as long as I don't do a big rant going, well, you should understand it, I've explained it clearly, and obviously you guys shouldn't have even been in this class, or give them some, as long as you don't do that sort of thing, then they've built up trust, because that you're actually going to help them if they say that they don't understand something. And so I find that they've suddenly become much more open to a show of hands, or even to asking questions and that sort of thing. So the interesting thing is that after a while it can actually kind of make itself unnecessary by building up that confidence for students to communicate.